Hello, folks. Welcome to my brain wreck. I call that my name, my brain wreck, because I've had nocturnal seizures and just diagnosed with a seizure disorder. As for now, I've not been diagnosed with epilepsy or anything like that, but they're leaning towards that possibly. Want known to have more tests and stuff. Well, let's talk about people making fun of us, like me and other people with a similar disorder, seizure disorders or epilepsy. So a lot of people make fun of others with nocturnal seizures, like any other medical condition, due to a combination of factors that include a lack of awareness. They're not educated. Why do we have these? Why do they think we're doing this on purpose or just uh, faking these things? In reality, we're not faking these things. To them, it looks like we're. It may look funny to them, but to us, it's not funny at all once we come out. And they don't know our situation. I can understand that to a point. So my suggestion to them is obviously get themselves educated. So it causes a lack of awareness, stigma, and misunderstandings, obviously. And as I said, these seizures occur at night and may be misattributed to nightmares, sleepwalking, or other sleep disorders. Not for sure, leading to ridicule or dismissal. They don't believe us. They think we're faking it, and we're just there trying to get attention, and they push us away and not listening to our needs and what we need and what we're trying to tell them that, no, this is why we're feeling like this. But they don't understand, obviously, because they're not in their shoes, so maybe they can think funny. Also, there's the visible manifestations of nocturnal seizures, which can involve movements. We move in our sleeps or we're doing jerks. We don't know what we're doing because we don't know what's going on because our brain wires are crossed and going different places. It can involve movements, noises, or post-seizure effects, after the seizure. Maybe like just waking up and are ready to fight, possibly. Um, may seem bizarre or unsettling to those unfamiliar with epilepsy. So, a lot of people are not familiar with epilepsy because I don't think people are educated enough. And like I said before in my other videos, I don't think it's funded enough and it's not promoted enough out there on TV or to programs and things like that. I think it needs to be programs onto educational television and be recognized more, such as breast cancer, diabetes, and other things, strokes, heart attacks. It's one of the rare things that's not known, I guess. I don't know why, but it should be. It should be just known as much as any other seizure disorder or epilepsy. It's a lack of understanding. They don't have understanding, which contributes to the negative attitudes of those people because they're not educated and think it's just silly and funny and they don't think it's real. But in actuality, it is real. It can lead to individuals being teased or mocked, obviously. So I don't know. I myself have not been teased or mocked or anything, but I am on a board and stuff where, yeah, we do make fun of each other, of ourselves personally, because that's how we deal with it and deal with stress and stuff. But in reality, people do need to be educated, understand what epilepsy and seizure disorders and nocturnal seizures and other type of seizure disorders, what they do and how it affects the person, how it affects them emotionally, physically, mentally, part of the society, we feel different. Um, People that are uneducated, they have a lack of awareness. They're not well informed of epilepsy or the different types of seizures that are out there, including nocturnal seizures, such as myself. So, unfortunately, the lack of knowledge can lead to misinterpretations of the seizures. Hence, we need to be educated more and more. So, for those that are out there, I'm asking you if you have friends and stuff, and if you are their true friend, you'll try to understand how they feel with their seizures and um, try to console them or be a good friend to them. Only true friends will stay with a friend. All the other friends will ignore them. You're not a true friend. You're just a socialite. You're just there, just because they're there. But if you want to be a true friend, you try to understand them and you be a close friend to them. Try to help them if you can, if possible. Educate yourself. Like I said in the video just before this, sit down with the person that maybe has 2 or 3 seizures, or even 4. Some people have more than 4. I've seen stuff where I haven't seen stuff, but people have maybe had 20 in one day. Think about that. Think that how much feel, and they're still alive. I'm still alive, thank God. Thank you for the man upstairs. God, God bless me to be alive here. I'm still here for a reason, obviously. So maybe I'm here to tell you guys about this or something. It's hard to say. I do not know for sure, but um, a stigma. Hyster- Historically, there has been stigma associated with epilepsy and seizures, which can lead to persist despite efforts to raise awareness. The stigma can manifest as a ridicule or teasing even in modern times, like today. It was thought that Albert Einstein had epilepsy. I think Little Wayne had epilepsy also, and a few other famous people from way back when, and not today too. I think there's others too. I can't think of the names. The reason some of you guys have misunderstandings is it may be struggle as nightmares, sleepwalking, or other sleep, you know, disorders. You guys think we're just sleepwalking or being a ridicule or dismissed, like I said, strange movement or noises. Yeah, we do have strange movement or noises. We're not doing it on purpose because we don't know what the heck we're doing or saying in our sleep. We really don't. Associated with some heart conditions may also seem unsettling to those who are not aware of the underlying medical condition. And before I go on further, just let you know, I'm just giving information out. This isn't be taken as medical information or anything like that. This is just for informational purposes only. So if you need any medical information stuff, consult your medical team, doctor, neurologist, hepatologist, or whoever you're taught to for your doctors or your medical team. All right. So that's my disclaimer. This is just for information. I'm trying to get out there for people to understand better. Physical manifestations. Well, let's see. The visible symptoms of some nocturnal seizures, such as movements, noises, or post-seizure effects, which is after the seizure, may be seen as unusual or crazy by those who are not familiar with epilepsy. So obviously, if your loved one, when you're the very first person or you're on a date or something, and even if it's not a nocturnal seizure or just a seizure itself, they don't know you have a seizure disorder. They're gonna be scared. They're gonna be wondering. They're gonna be wondering if you're faking something or whatever, possibly, maybe, or maybe they're actually gonna be concerned and call 911. In my opinion, for those who are going out on a date and stuff, let the person, just in my humble opinion, let the person up front know about your situation, so they know, so they're aware of it, in case they do need to help you or something like that. Better be safe than not. Better be safe than sorry, right? Because if you want to enjoy life, be as safe as possible. So let your date, if it's your first date, let them know. Because I know it may seem embarrassing and stuff like that, but it's always good to be honest, not tell lies or anything like that. Because lies you gotta keep track of. Don't lie. No reason to lie. Tell the truth. The truth, it's easy to remember. You just tell the truth, tell what it is. You don't have to go, say, I did this and this and that and those. No. This is what I'm telling you. You say, go to your date, I'm telling you up front, I do have a seizure disorder. I'm epileptic or other things like that. Whatever kind of disorder you have that may require medical attention right away. Some people with seizure disorders also, have stuff going on with their hearts and stuff. Like myself, I have nocturnal seizures, but like I said, it's just considered seizure disorder at the moment. I have a secondary heart block, and I have what's called a loop recorder right underneath my heart here, and I have a little machine in there that basically it's like a Bluetooth machine, I guess, saying it keeps track of what's going on, and it's right underneath about 1 inch below my heart, and it's about this big. It's like a diabetes um, blood strip, what brings that to me that I have a type 2 diabetes, so I gotta test my blood to make sure my sugar is okay. So I'm still here. I'm a medical nightmare, I guess you could say, to some doctors, but not all. But thankfully I have a really great doctor who's awesome and is always watching out for me. So appreciate it very much. So social pressure. Do we feel social pressure? Absolutely, we feel social pressure. I understand that I've talked about this in other videos and stuff like that, but I'm just going over why we may be teased or mocked due to social pressure to conform to the expectations. You guys expect us to conform to expectations. Well, you know what? We can't always conform to expectations. Sometimes we have to do certain things that we don't want to, but we have to. We want to stay alive. For example, for instance, like for my seizures and stuff like that, and the medicines I take, part of my thing is to make sure I have plenty of rest. You know, stay hydrated and electrolyte and so on. But I need to have plenty of rest. Like I said, this is for information purposes only. You know, um, other things that go on, like I said, it's hard. You know, now I'm just gonna read something that's abstract from over here. This is from ScienceDirect.com, so I'm just gonna read it to you. All right, so please don't see my face quite that way. All right, so the qualitative net netnographic study of epilepsy conversations posted on public social media sites over a 12-month period was conducted in order to identify key themes and issues for people living with epilepsy. This is from PWE. A total of 264,706 conversations posted online between the 3rd of November 2019 and the 3rd of November 2019. I know this is an older article, but I'm still reading it to you, which originated in the United Kingdom, Spain, France, Italy, and Germany. Okay, so this is over there in other countries, but it still could be relatable to over here also. Were identified using predefined and piloted search terms. A random sample of these posts was then analyzed using natural language processing and qualitative, in-depth, and contextual analysis. Key themes that emerge related to disease awareness among the general public, the psychological and physical impact of seizures, psychological and physical impact of the seizures to us, and how it works against us, and how we worry about them. The importance of ensuring proper sleep, as I mentioned, understanding disease burden through time, all right? Finding treatment and management side effects. Managing side effects. Yeah, we can get side effects from medicines. Sometimes they got to find the right combo of medicines for us, and or some medicine there can make you just. There's one medicine. Um, it's called Keppra. All right, that's what I'll call it. It is Keppra. And there's stuff like Keppra Rage has affected a lot of people and stuff like that from the stuff that I read and things like that. So I myself do take Keppra or levetiracetam, which is a generic name for it, but I've been lucky so far, so I haven't noticed anything. My wife hasn't noticed anything, but a lot of other people that have taken it and stuff like that have lost their loved ones. They've acted totally different or were and just jump off the ground and not their normal self. So, like I said, key themes that emerge related to disease awareness among the general public, psychological and physical impact of seizures, the importance of ensuring proper sleep, understanding disease burden through time, finding treatment and managing side effects, and dealing with depression and anxiety. So as you hear those two words, depression and anxiety, those go together hand in hand, obviously. So that's what people like myself with seizure disorders and those with epilepsy, that affects us tremendously. We feel like we're just a stigma to society, and like I said, we just feel like we're a piece of gum on somebody's shoe or walking across the street. We're nobody. We're just. And you wonder why people hide sometimes, and people with seizures or stuff just want to be alone and stay alone because they don't feel like they're part of the family or anything. Sometimes the family members themselves make fun of their own family members. That is wrong. Don't do that. Be like me. Be like them making fun of you if you're a alcoholic. Oh, you're an alcoholic. Here, have another drink. Here, might as well get closer to your grave sooner. Here you go. Here, I bought this 24 pack for you. Here's a few shots of Jack. I'm just making an example. So that's how that person feels. Also, that's just the example. That's all I'm saying. So, people living with epilepsy highlighted that seizures have a significant impact on mental as well as physical health. It drains us. It really drains us. Any type of seizure or epilepsy or stuff drains our muscles. So we have to recover. It takes us time to recover. Sometimes a couple of days, sometimes a week, depending on their medicine treatment stuff, or if you're brand new to this. So it has a significant mental as well as physical health and cause limitations to all aspects of life, fear of having a seizure in public is a major concern for people with epilepsy. That's what PWE stands for, people with epilepsy, and the anticipation of seizures can worsen anxiety. So some people do know when they're going to have a seizure. They do know. They know what's going to come. So that's why they go sit down and try to find a safe spot and stuff. And there are people that have dogs, seizure epilepsy awareness dogs or seizure dogs, alert them and stuff. Very, very expensive for them to have. It's a very expensive dog to have trained and stuff. There's some people that do have it. Not too many people, but a few. I'm not sure how many thousand people have a seizure alert dog or like that. So fear of having a seizure in public is a major concern for people with epilepsy, and the anticipation of seizures, as I mentioned, and it can worsen the anxiety, causing patients to limit social interaction, as I mentioned, as I just told you, and often leading to social isolation. They just want to be left alone, not touched. They just do their own thing, and maybe they go to work and come home and disappear and off to Neverland, don't want to be bugged or anything like that. And then that's part of that is their anxiety, depression, part of the stigma of society. People living with epilepsy therefore advocate the greater attention be paid to the mental health impact. You hear that? Mental health impact that it has on them. Pay greater attention to them, what that has on them affects them. People like myself and others can affect us tremendously. Treatment and its side effects were also a major aspect of the online epilepsy. Right? So, like I said, this is from the UK, Spain, France, Italy, and Germany. We're using predefined and piloted search terms. That's what they're using, all right? So it's just an abstract. And I'll put this into my description where you can get it if you want to read more about it, whatever. This is from 2018 to 2019 of November, but it still is relatable. So treatment and side effects were also a major aspect of the online conversation of people with epilepsy. Now it says some people believe there's a lack of awareness. Oh yes, there is. There is a major lack of awareness out there still. I totally agree with this. Seizure disorders, epilepsy awareness, any type of seizure disorders or epilepsy awareness, there's a very, very major. Just is not out there. It needs to be funded more, needs to be taken more seriously. Granted, I know they're doing research and stuff, but I guess there has been some breakthroughs, but I still have to do some research on that and see what kind of what they're doing on that myself personally, to see what kind of research there is. And as for epilepsy, sometimes people with epilepsy do have sleep apnea or a disorder of some type of sleep, So, like I said, people with epilepsy, there's a lack of awareness or sensitivity among healthcare professionals. Okay? You heard that. Healthcare professionals. Sometimes healthcare professionals aren't very sensitive to our needs out there. There are some, are just quick to write you off real quick and say, you have epilepsy. Not necessarily you don't have epilepsy. You have a seizure disorder or a whole other cause of stuff. You may have seizures, As I mentioned, 3+ type seizures, Like I'm a type 2 diabetic. I could have a diabetic seizure. And then people that have a alcohol withdrawals could have a alcohol seizure. There's a fever. People that have a high fever can have a fever from a seizure and so forth. There's all kinds of seizures. Drug overdose. Some people that are overdosing can turn into having a seizure because your body's shutting down, doesn't know what to do, and like I said, your brain electrodes are getting, the neurons and stuff are getting crossed and your brain is confused. So, like I said, sensitivity among healthcare professionals who may underestimate their concerns or not take the sufficient time to discuss their needs. So doctors will rush, unfortunately. There are some that will take their time and stuff, which they need to do. They took an oath, And I know some doctors are just going to rush through and say, this is what you need that. That's fine. There you go. How you doing today? Okay, don't see nothing there. Here's your prescriptions. Have a nice day. Doctors shouldn't do that at all. We're there to trust them, we want to trust our medical team and stuff and like that. So my suggestion for those out there, that have epilepsy disorders, do as I do myself, and you guys probably do too. Search for your medical team. Do your research on it. Make sure that they are willing to take your time with you and everything like that. ask other people and stuff that who have doctors if they're staying with them. So now these findings therefore are supposed to help signpost issues of importance to people with epilepsy in areas in which their care may be improved. So lots of things in there, all kinds of things. And I just want to, I'm going to add just one more thing in here, and this is from just part of the internet, but this is highlighted. But like I said, that's just the abstract thing I was talking about. And so, if your first time ever had epilepsy or you had been diagnosed with seizure disorder, I highly suggest do your research and find a very good doctor that's willing to take their time with you. You know, I know each doctor, I know the average time for is 15 minutes, but find a doctor your first time is at least if they're willing to do at least a 40 minutes if possible, or 45 if they're willing to do that, or even online or whatever. And if you have to, go to different doctors. I know it's a pain in the butt, but find a doctor that is willing to take your time. Neurologist, hepatologist, and talk with your main doctor too, of course. That's your primary care physician. So your primary care physician, he works with all the doctors. So, but he's the one that takes care of you, and he can prescribe medicines and things like that also. My doctor, I think I have my doctor right now, my PCP, and I'm going to see a new neurologist here on the 23rd. But my PCP he actually prescribes my anti-seizure medicine, or seizure medicines anyway. So thank God he does that. So it's very kind of him. Now I'm just going to read this here about epilepsy and stuff, because me personally, I don't know if I have epilepsy. Like I said, I just only been given a diagnosis of seizure disorder. It says people living with epilepsy have higher rates of somatic and psychiatric comorbidities than those without epilepsy. And epilepsy impairs all aspects of health-related quality of life, affecting the independence and psychological health of people with epilepsy. All right. All negative attitudes toward people with epilepsy have diminished over time. Stigma. Remember that big word stigma is always there. It's going to be there forever. Still a major drive of stress and limitation for people with epilepsy. And the attitudes and lack of awareness of the general public about the condition often exacerbate the burden with which people with epilepsy live. So it's sad. People that they just ignore us. They don't care. We just think, you may be walking by somebody in the store or something, and that person, for those who don't have epilepsy or no seizure disorder, and you guys are okay, you can be walking by somebody and look perfectly normal, and they just look like me. I look okay, but come on, look at me. I'm great, right? I'm just being silly here, but you got to just, people out there, educate yourselves, please. Start educating yourselves about people with seizure disorders and epilepsy. They're a human being, just like you. They want to be cared for, loved, and appreciated. They just want to be part of society. That's all. You'd be surprised how many people out there actually have epilepsy, and I can guarantee you probably want to buy a few of them. It's not as exacerbated as many people think there is, but there's more than that than you think there is. So, other than that, all I say is, like I said, go connect with somebody that has epilepsy or seizure disorders, and walk around with them and walk with them for the day and whatever. If they have the day off, or they don't have nothing, or all they can do is stay home and they can't drive anywhere. If you're willing to drive them somewhere, so get them out and about if you can. Try to make them feel good if you can. They don't want to be a stigma on the piece of a shoe, gum. Get it? All right. So be kind. That's all people have to do. Educate yourselves. Try to learn more about this if you can. I know this is a new channel. I'm going to try to get out there as much as I can. And like I said, this is for information purposes only. I get information from the internet. This stuff I just read to you is from Science to Right, and I'll put it into my description when I can. But anyways, bless each and every one of you, and all those with epilepsy. You guys stay strong, Purple Warriors. All right. And those with seizure disorders, you guys stay strong too. You guys have a great day. This is my brain wreck. I'm going to talk to you again next time.